Okay, so today we're going to be making one of my favorite dishes, which is the use of a weed, actually, a wild weed. And it's a root of that weed. It's called burdock, okay? And if you've ever walked in a field and got burrs on you, that plant, if you dig up the root, it's usually, quite difficult to dig up, actually. In fact, the Japanese consider burdock to be very yang in their sort of spectrum of food analysis. Supposedly yang foods give you strength and etc., but obviously that's linked to the strength and the effort it is to actually dig this root up. So anyway, you dig it up and you take a brush to it and kind of clean it up a bit. Then then you're basically in the realm of pencil shaving it into the water, okay? So it's like sharpening a pencil. You want little slivers, and you just rotate it as you, pencil shave it into boiling water. The water itself will come to a boil. And it's recommended, although, I don't tend to do this, but it's recommended that you boil it for 20 odd minutes or so. Change the water and then continue to boil it. And I'm not 100% sure why that is. They only mention that it helps to tame the flavor of it, which tends to be a little bit bitter if you don't, but I've never actually found it to be bitter at all. By the time I finish with my recipe, it's quite tasty. Okay, so while that's boiling, you basically take about 2/3 of a cup of water, and we begin to add the ingredients for the flavoring. Okay, so these are the basic ingredients of the recipe. Our final goal, of course, is to make a burdock sandwich. So what we do is while the burdock is boiling, we can blend some tahini in the water with a couple of tablespoons of tahini, maybe a teaspoon of miso, a few shots of soy sauce, and we'll stir that up until it's well blended in the water. And then we'll be sauteing the burdock with sesame oil, garlic, a little bit of ginger, and onion. Then this mixture here will be poured in afterwards and used to do a final steaming of the entire product. Now I sometimes also add a teaspoon of good tasting yeast to this blend in here. I think I'll do that too. So that's just a basic flake yeast. So we'll put that in the mix too. Yeah. Okay, so we want to chop our garlic. I like to smash it, and then that is an easy way to get that peel off. And then just cut it up tiny. Saute, and a little ginger. I'm a big fan of ginger, so I like to put in a fair amount of it. And just get it as small as possible. That's interesting. We're basically eating a weed here, so one would think that, gosh, it might be inexpensive, but I'm afraid burdock, when you can find it, and usually you can find it in Japanese grocery stores or Chinese grocery stores, when you can find it, it can be expensive, but less so than when you buy it in a local health food store, which tends to charge, like almost $3 per root. The 2 roots that I put in the boiling water here were about $6, so it's not a cheap vegetable, but it's very It's a hardy one, so. And if you can dig it up yourself, of course, you're saving a lot of money there. And we live on the coast here. I haven't seen too much burdock growing in the wild. So I like to keep the skillet kind of hot and singe everything a little bit. And get it ready to add the burdock. Now, because we're going to be further cooking it in the frying pan, we can take it off after about 25 minutes, and it's usually pretty done at that point. Don't miss any pieces. And it should have the consistency of let's say an almost cooked potato. Okay, so we want to add that to our saute, like so. Mix that all up with the onions and garlic and now, the reason you want this relatively hot, okay, so when we pour in our mixture, it begins to steam off. Okay, and then like I was mentioning earlier that maybe Burdock has a bit of a bitter taste. I have never found that. I actually find it has a sweetness to it. And, of course, the miso and the tamari and tahini all collude together to kind of create a relatively salty final product. We're basically making burdock sandwiches as the final sequence here. But you can see that as it boils off, it begins to take on more of a gravy-like effect. Yeah, so as you can see, it's becoming rather thick gravy. We're starting to stick a little bit to the pan, so we can now lower the temperature. Just for the final sequence here. You want to leave it almost like a very, very thick beef gravy kind of final product. You know, that's basically the consistency of it because of the way the burdock root has a woody kind of stringiness to it. It does have a very burdock beef kind of relationship. And certainly the yang part that the Japanese attribute to it, the yang qualities of burdock, are very similar to how you might characterize any kind of meat. What's going to happen is we're going to cool it before we eat it. It's like a cold roast beef sandwich. Hey Google, how many calories in cooked burdock? 1 cup.
On the website fatsecret.com, they say, there are 85 calories in 1 cup of burdock root. Calorie breakdown, 2% fat, 92% carbs, 6% protein.
Alright, so once we've got it all cooked up, put it in a container, and we just pop it in the fridge to let it cool. It's tasty when it's warm, but it's actually better as a cold roast beef type sandwich. So okay, the proof is in the pudding, and if you've never had a burdock sandwich, this is pretty much going to be one of your better vegetarian type meals, especially when you consider it's just a weed, okay, that grows prolifically in some areas, just not in mine, so I have to pay extra to buy it here on the West Coast. Whoops, hold on. Alright, so we just spread it on like you would any kind of roast beef. And there's really not much to it. A little mayo And I kind of like to put a little lettuce on it, and I'd like to add a little black pepper just for a little extra final seasoning. And away we go. We get a perfect burdock sandwich, just like that. Boom. No problem. Pat it down. Grab a knife. Oh yeah, I do like to cut this sort of diagonal. Okay, let's see what this baby tastes like. And one of my first burdock sandwiches of 2018. Wow. Try it, you'll like it.